Hi there, I'm Professor Blackmore, and I want to welcome you to ProfessorBlackmore.com, where our goal is to empower results through real productivity. And if you haven't been here before, I want to ask you please subscribe to my YouTube channel and click the bell so you'll be notified whenever I post new videos. And please also follow me on TikTok and Instagram. And today, I want to talk to you about further developments surrounding the Alec Baldwin shooting on the set of the movie Rust in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Now, and by brief background explanation of this case, as you know, the director of photography, Helena Hutchins, was killed, and director Joel Souza was injured when Alec Baldwin fired a gun on the set, causing a live bullet projectile to strike Helena Hutchins and to exit her body, entering the body of the director Joel Souza, causing him to suffer very serious gunshot injuries. And in my last video, I talked to you about a warrant that had been issued by the New Mexico judge allowing a New Mexico sheriff to seize Alec Baldwin's cell phone and related data. In addition, I discussed the fact that I really don't think the sheriff is looking for information on Alec Baldwin's cell phone. And so I hope you take the time to review my prior video so that you can be brought up to speed. And the reason that I wanted to discuss this at that time over 3 weeks ago was because of the sloppy way that it was reported in the news, as if the sheriff already had Alec Baldwin's cell phone in his possession, or the very thirsty, incorrect reports leading the public to think that it was unequivocal that just because the sheriff wanted and had a warrant for Alec Baldwin's cell phone, that he would absolutely be able to actually obtain the cell phone and its related data. And so at that time, I advised you that these assumptions were incorrect. And as such, today, I want to follow up on the status of the warrant 3 weeks later and advise you right off the bat that the sheriff still has not obtained Alec Baldwin's cell phone. And so for more details, let's review these breaking news developments.
And despite the warrant issued 3 weeks ago now, Alec Baldwin still has not cooperated with investigators' demands in the Rust shooting case. New Mexico authorities have not gained access that they requested, and then they put a warrant out for his cell phone and the messages and the text messages on that phone that could pertain to the case and the background of what happened in the shooting and killing of Helena Hutchins. In moments, attorney Brian Claypool joins us, but first to correspondent Christina Coleman in Los Angeles. Hi, Christina.
Hi, Martha. Yeah, it's been 3 weeks since that warrant has been issued, and authorities are working hard to try and get a hold of Baldwin's cell phone. As you mentioned, text messages, emails, videos, anything pertaining to the production of this film could help with the investigation. The DA's office put out a brief statement saying that Santa Fe County Sheriff's Office and First Judicial DA's office are actively working with the Suffolk County, New York Sheriff's Department and Mr. Baldwin's lawyers within jurisdictional constraints to obtain any materials from Mr. Baldwin's phone that pertain to the Rust investigation. So authorities out of New Mexico are working with authorities out of New York on this effort. We reached out to Baldwin's attorney about this and have not heard back. Now, no one has been charged yet in the deadly October 21st shooting. Baldwin was holding the gun when it went off, killing cinematographer Helena Hutchins and injuring film director Joel Souza. However, Baldwin denies pulling the trigger.
So you have this Colt 45, you just pulled
the hammer as far back as I could without cocking the actual.
and you're holding onto the hammer.
I'm holding that. I'm just showing. I go, how about that? Does that work? Do you see that? Do you see that? She goes, yeah, that's good. I let go of the hammer. Bang, the gun goes off.
But some gun experts still question Baldwin's account of exactly how the gun went off. More than 500 rounds of ammunition, including a mix of blanks and dummy rounds, and what appeared to be live rounds were found on the set of this movie. And how they ended up there are all part of this ongoing investigation. Martha?
Christina, thank you very much. Christina Coleman in Los Angeles.
Now, let me say once again, just because the judge signs a warrant doesn't mean the law enforcement official requesting the items to be seized will actually obtain those items, especially when you're dealing with an out-of-state law enforcement agency. Now, because Alec Baldwin resides in New York, the New Mexico court, sheriff, and prosecutor just do not have jurisdiction over him until he steps foot back into New Mexico. And although the New Mexico sheriff has requested assistance from the New York law enforcement officials, in my opinion, these efforts will likely be futile because the New York law enforcement officials just do not have any jurisdiction or any authority to assist the New Mexico sheriff in his efforts to execute a New Mexico warrant. And it is really very surprising to me just how little we know, even as attorneys, about how the Fourth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution really works. And so let's just take a minute to see what I mean.
Attorney Brian Claypool joins me now. Brian, good to have you with us. I mean, I think there's a lot of frustration for those of us who have watched this case about what is going on. I mean, there's a warrant for his phone. There's information on the phone. Why haven't they received it yet?
Yeah, hey Martha, great to see you again and Happy New Year. I mean, you and I talked about a month ago, and you even brought up a great point then. You're like, why wasn't a search warrant issued immediately, right, for Alec Baldwin's phone? Then there's a delay, right, over a month to issue a search warrant, right? And now we are weeks later, and they don't have the phone? Are you kidding me? Last time I checked, whenever you issue a search warrant, you take the warrant, you go over to somebody's house, you don't call up the lawyer and say, hey, since you rep a big-time celebrity, we want to try to arrange the, serving the search warrant. That's not how it works in the real world. Why hasn't that happened? What I'm sensing now in your piece, you mentioned jurisdictional constraints. I bet you what Baldwin's lawyer now is saying, hey, wait a minute, you have a search warrant from another state. There's a legal doctrine called comity, where sometimes one jurisdiction might honor an order from another jurisdiction, but some don't. And they require you then to get a court order from like Suffolk County. Why isn't the Suffolk County DA going in and getting a court order tomorrow or Monday and get their own court order in New York so you can serve now a New York search warrant to get this phone? It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, all of what you just described seems like it should have taken place on day one, and that it could take place over a 24 to 48 hour period to get that comedy, to get that agreement between these states, and as you say, to just show up with the warrant. Because Alec Baldwin has said, perhaps through his attorney, I'm not just turning it over, you need to send a warrant. So then they did that. So clearly they're dragging their feet on this whole thing. And we'll see where it goes, because clearly there's some responsibility. This accident happened, if it was purely an accident, which, is part of the investigation. But clearly there was some fault here, and we need to get to the bottom of it. A woman is dead. Brian Claypool, thank you very much. We'll see you soon. Thanks, Brian. Yeah.
Now, this would not be the first time in history that a law enforcement official failed to execute a warrant as a result of crafty attorney work. And in my prior video, I reminded you of the example of a similar warrant that was never executed. So if you remember, the FBI was never able to get Apple to comply with the warrant to assist in assessing data on an iPhone, which was owned by the San Bernardino Health Department, but was used by one of the perpetrators in a terrorist attack, resulting in the mass shooting of over 14 people in San Bernardino, California. The FBI eventually had to pay an outside company approximately $1 million to help them to unlock the phone, and having a warrant did not help them one bit. Now, recent news reports have revealed that others on the set have already turned their cell phones over to the sheriff voluntarily. And so if Alec Baldwin made connections with any of those individuals, the sheriff could easily obtain enough information from those other cell phones and the related data associated with those cell phones. So again, I think the sheriff is looking for something deeper here, but that's just my opinion. And so again, I think this cell phone issue will be tied up in courts for some time.
Investigators are still searching for answers about the deadly prop gun shooting on the set of the film Rust last October. Police in 2 states now trying to get Alec Baldwin's cell phone. Christina Coleman is live in Los Angeles with the details. Christina.
There's a lot of construction, guys.
Hi, Arthel. Yes, this is the latest twist in this investigation. Authorities in New Mexico are now working with authorities in New York to try and get a hold of Baldwin's cell phone. Yesterday, they released a statement saying, quote, the Suffolk County Sheriff's Office has received a request from the Santa Fe, New Mexico authorities requesting assistance in obtaining Alec Baldwin's phone. This request has been forwarded to the Suffolk County DA's office to work out the differences in laws between New Mexico and New York. We reached out to Baldwin's attorneys about this and have not heard back. So Baldwin's claims are part of this ongoing investigation, and the DA's office says it could take months before it's over.
I don't believe the sheriff will have any luck getting his hands on Alec Baldwin's cell phone anytime soon. I see 3 reasons. And so number 1, I just don't think the sheriff has enough probable cause, which is the main ingredient required by the 4th Amendment, which covers and governs searches and seizures in the United States. I really don't think the judge should have signed the warrant in the first place, but it's not a regular court proceeding. It is what we call an ex parte proceeding, and it only requires the sheriff's sworn affidavit. And although Alec Baldwin's attorneys did exactly what I would have done, which is to tell the sheriff that if he wanted the cell phone, he would need to obtain a warrant. This is not a proceeding where Alec Baldwin's attorneys would have been present, and they would never want to be present because they knew the sheriff did not have jurisdiction to actually execute the warrant in New York. So while the sheriff may have enough probable cause to think a lot of people made a lot of mistakes, I don't see that he has enough actual probable cause to think that Alec Baldwin did anything criminal to cause those bullets to find their way on the movie set. That's going to be the critical component here because it's the actual bullets being on the set. There was no reason for bullets to be on the set, and there was no reason for Alec Baldwin to think any bullets, live bullets, were on the set at the time that he was doing what you do in movies. And so the actual function of doing the job of being an actor on a movie set is to act like something is happening in real life. He had no real thought or thinking that he wanted to actually shoot anybody. And so it's just going to be very difficult to reach that level of evidence to establish that level of culpability on the part of Alec Baldwin, unless somebody can tie him to actual knowledge that there were actual live bullets on the set. And that is the part that remains to be seen. And so if Alec Baldwin communicated with anybody told Alec Baldwin that there was any chance that there was any live bullets on the set, that there was any history of any live bullets being on the set, and that communication is found on anybody else's cell phone, the sheriff can easily obtain that information from those other cell phones, wherever they may be. I am almost certain that this is not the case. Out of all of the outlandish things that Alec Baldwin has said, and I think he said just in the fit of pure anxiety, I believe him when he says that he does not know how live bullets got on the set. I really do not think that he had any level of knowledge, although you hear all of the hearsay from people saying that there were mishaps on the set. I don't think that information made its way to Alec Baldwin, and you would need that critical component to get anywhere close to establishing a criminal negligence on his part. And so at this time, I just don't see that there's enough probable cause here yet. And so when the time comes, if this matter ends up in the New York courts, Alec Baldwin's attorney's first major argument is going to be a lack of jurisdiction. Now, it'll be another story if they ever appear in the New Mexico court to quash the warrant, because if they do that, then jurisdiction is going to be established just by their mere appearing in the court. We'll have to wait to see what happens in that regard. Then, their second major argument, if they end up in a New York court or any court, is going to be a lack of probable cause. But another huge issue that stands in the way of the sheriff actually executing the warrant to actually obtain Alec Baldwin's cell phone is attorney-client privilege. This might not be the strongest argument because the judge can heavily monitor what actual evidence the sheriff can seize. But attorney-client privilege is huge because the device is now used by Alec Baldwin to communicate with his attorneys. And so we'll have to see how this all shakes out. There are a lot of legal and jurisdictional issues here. But what do you think? I think this issue is going to be tied up in courts for quite some time to untangle all of these legal issues. But if you disagree or don't disagree, or you do or don't think the sheriff will get Alec Baldwin to turn over his cell phone and cell phone data, please leave your comments in the comment section of this video. And until next time, and even if you don't agree with me, if you've enjoyed this video, please give me a big thumbs up, and please also subscribe to my YouTube channel and click the bell so you'll be notified whenever I post new videos on this topic. And please also follow me on TikTok and Instagram.